What if events had unfolded differently in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales? What if Miles Morales joined the underground? Well, welcome back, my fellow watchers, to the multiverse, to a brand new Marvel's What If. And in today's Marvel's What If, we're going to be looking at the Marvel's Spider-Man universe. And in this reality, Miles joined the underground, and this led to an entirely different set of events. Now, what do you think these set of events would have been like for Miles Morales? Well, let's find out in today's brand new video, and I do want to say before we begin, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are a part of this community. But that being said, my fellow watchers, let's dive in to the multiverse. Location: top of a skyscraper, New York. Time: 5:02 p.m. Miles was not ready, and he knew it. No matter what he did, he felt like he could not live up to the standard of Peter Parker. Miles thought that he would forever live in the shadow of Peter. The recent events of today further proved his belief. Miles and Peter were to escort a vehicle that contained the worst criminals ever. Because of Miles' mistake, Rhino and other convicts got out. It was not an easy feat getting them all rounded up again, even though Miles had been the one who later captured Rhino. Using his bioelectric ability, he was still beating himself up mentally for messing up in the first place. In Miles' mind, nothing he would do would ever make him be like Peter Parker. Talk more of surpassing him. Miles' insecurity further got heightened when Peter lashed out at him. Parker berated Miles for his incompetence by telling him that he was too clumsy. He told Miles that it was because of him that Rhino escaped in the first place. Miles already knew that, but Peter telling him all over again hurted him. This was how it had always been. This is why Miles' insecurity was increased by a millionth times. No matter what he did, Peter complained and criticized him. Peter always found a way to find faults in him. Miles got to know from Mary Jane that Peter was not always like this, that this new behavior had started when he lost his Aunt May. She normally told Miles that he was just looking out for the ones he loved, but he was too scared to even love anyone because he did not want to lose any of them. Mary Jane's explanation had made sense to Miles, but the consistent criticisms did not make sense to his heart. It constantly broke him anytime Peter lashed out at his incompetence. Since he became Spider-Man's sort of sidekick, this was how things were. As Peter went on and on about his incompetence, Miles wondered how things would have ended up if Peter showed him a little love. What if Peter was kinder to me? Miles asked himself. Peter then disrupted him from being his line of thoughts by giving him frightening news. Peter told Miles that he was traveling to see Mary Jane, and his spirit broke. Miles was very sure that he would not be able to handle the superhero duty on his own. Peter Parker was having none of it, though. He told Miles that he knew he would not last one day in his shoes, but that he would have to do it. Peter was going to help Mary Jane for her photography project, and Miles knew it was futile trying to stop him because it was Mary Jane. I surely hope that nothing would go wrong, Miles said to Peter, who chuckled. Of course, with you, things are always bound to go wrong, Peter said with a sneer. This statement broke Miles' spirit. Miles just simply said a prayer to the universe that the few preceding weeks would be the most uneventful set of days he had ever experienced. Naturally, the universe did the complete opposite. After that, Peter swung home to prepare for his trip, leaving Miles alone. As Peter swung home, he felt a lot of guilt. Peter knew that he had been too hard on the kid. Ever since Aunt May died, Peter had changed. He had been punishing himself for not being faster, for not being better. This was why he was always pushing Miles past his limit. No matter what the boy did, Peter wanted him to be better, because anything could happen at any time. No doubt, Peter was always impressed that Miles was able to recapture Rhino all by himself as he was knocked out, but he would not praise him. Peter felt that if he praised him, then Miles would feel comfortable and slack. It's better that he feels uncomfortable and keeps pushing himself to be better every day, Peter told himself, to justify his actions. Peter just hoped that one day, Miles would see all his actions as coming from a place of love. That one day, Miles would finally understand. Peter's greatest fear was that his actions would push Miles away to a darker version of himself. Parker hoped that it would not come to that Miles would understand that it was just tough love. After trying to water down the guilt of his actions to no avail, Parker just cleared his mind, started thinking about how wonderful his time with Mary Jane would be. She was now the first person of the few people he loved in this world. With thoughts of happy memories to come, Peter continued swinging home. After Peter had traveled, Miles decided that he had to go and visit his mom in Harlem for the Christmas season. His dad had unfortunately passed on, and she was all that he had left. Since Peter Parker had left, the most eventful thing Miles did was to stop some guys called the Underground from stealing the nun form from Roxon. Miles was investigating a break-in at Roxon's. He managed to successfully thwart their efforts, though he kept thinking of what Peter would say. Miles knew that Peter would have a lot of these critiques about the mission, but he just removed his mind from the train of thoughts, as he did not want anything to spoil his festive mood. Miles just prayed that as he was traveling, that nothing of much weight would hit New York City. He could not put off the trip because he was sure that Rio, his mom, and Genki, his best friend, would be killed. Miles was glad that at least he was also taking a break, because he felt he needed it. And Miles' mom promised him that he would be coming home to a dinner, and he couldn't wait. When Miles got home, he was in for a surprise. His mom had invited over his best friend, Genki, and more shockingly, his long-forgotten childhood friend was there. Her name was Finn. Miles was so surprised to see her, because it had been too long since they last saw each other. Miles had almost forgotten her too, but he was glad his mom invited her. After the dinner, they exchanged contacts and promised to keep in touch. When Miles hit the bed, for some strange and amusing reason, he was very elated. After turning around in his bed because of excitement, he decided to sleep because Genki had promised to show him something that would solve most of his superhero problems. And with that, Miles quickly went to sleep. Genki was a genius, and that was saying the least. The next day, Miles was shocked at Genki's innovation. His best friend had created a device that granted him a special call line. This call line was untraceable, and it would aid the citizens to contact him privately. Miles was so elated and thanked Genki excessively after he had turned on the device and started using it. However, he was in for a shocker. His first caller was his uncle, Aaron. His uncle gave him the news that surprised him to his core. Aaron told Miles that he knew that he was Spider-Man, and this sent chills to his core. His mind started racing to how Aaron could possibly know and what might he do with that information. He thought about blackmail, but he quickly dismissed it as his uncle had been like a father to him after his biological father had passed on. Aaron quickly quelled his mind. He told Miles that he should not worry. At the end of the call, Aaron invited Miles for a visit, and he was happy. As Miles thought back to the call, he figured that it was not bad that his uncle knew who he was. This was because the load of being Spider-Man was proving too much for him to carry on, so if a family member knew, it would lessen the load. Miles would now have someone he could trust with everything and not be afraid of most harmful criticisms, because his Uncle Aaron showed him love. What bugged him more, however, was how Aaron found out. The reason his uncle gave him was not convincing enough, and he hoped to drag out the real reason on his visit. Miles had thought that the visit at Harlem would be a peaceful one, that it would be like a vacation, but he was extremely wrong. Miles had to go and stop an altercation between the Roxon and the Underground again. The worst thing was that this altercation was that it took place during one of his mom's campaign rallies, as Rio was contesting for the promotion of the city's mayor. The result of the bout was, however, devastating. Miles' image was ruined, as in the course of fighting the Underground, as he had to unleash his ultimate weapon, the bioelectricity. What Miles did not realize was that the site contained Nuform, a source of energy which was highly explosive. When Miles unleashed his ability, it caused the whole bridge to explode. This caused massive havoc on the streets. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but Miles' ego and esteem became non-existent. The people of Harlem suddenly turned on Miles, and they were accusing him of destroying their city. Peter was also calling, but Miles refused to pick up the phone because he already knew what he would say. Miles was so down, but the only person that comforted him was Genki. Genki told him that it was okay, that mistakes happened all the time. Genki reminded Miles that he was the only Spider-Man now, that he had to step up. Miles confided his inferocity complex to Genki, telling him that he did not think that he could live up to Spider-Man's legacy. Genki advised Miles to then step out of Peter's shadow. Genki told Miles to be who he is and not Peter. Miles was a little confused as he did not know how to start, but Genki said that he had a new idea. Genki's idea was a new and unique spider suit for Miles. It was the most beautiful thing Miles had ever seen. Location: Miles' room, Harlem. Time: 7:56 a.m. After Genki's encouragement and advice, Miles felt revigorated in his new role as Spider-Man. He started thinking clearly again, and he decided that he needed to solve the puzzle before him, the matter between the Underground and the Roxon Company. Miles had started sensing that there was more than what met the eye in this matter. In the course of playing Peacemaker and saving the day, Miles discovered something interesting and quite mind-boggling. His childhood friend, Finn, was the one leading the Underground in their assault on Roxon. Miles was bewildered at this discovery, but he did not let it show, as he had to conceal his own identity as Spider-Man. After the fight, Miles was confused on what to do. He briefly considered going to the cops to report Finn, but he quickly thrashed the idea, as it was nothing short of being funny. If he reported it to the cops, they'd ask him how he got the information, and then he would have to reveal his identity. And then there was the issue of Finn being his childhood friend. Miles could not just throw her under the bus. "For goodness sake, I just met her again," Miles said in his mind as he scolded himself. Miles was in confusion of what to do, but he quickly thought of someone who could advise him. Miles quickly thought of his Uncle Aaron. Miles figured that Aaron would know what to do, as he was much wiser than him. Without wasting much time again, Miles contacted his uncle, and a meeting between them was set up. Before meeting Aaron, however, Miles decided that he had some investigating to do. Location: Roxon's facility. Time: 8:09 p.m. Miles infiltrated the Roxon facility. Due to his stealth skill and web climbing, and what he discovered shocked him. Everything now made perfect sense to him. Miles discovered, while investigating Finn's connection to the Underground, that her brother, Rick, had created Nuform during his work for Roxon. Miles remembered Rick, but vaguely. He knew that Finn had a brother, but he was shocked to see that he had created Nuform. Upon further investigation, Miles discovered that Rick soon became sick due to the Nuform's unstable properties. This made Finn and Rick set out to expose the dangers of Nuform to the public, but Simon Kurger killed the latter. After taking the life of Rick, Kurger then took credit for Nuform's creation. Miles was in the facility, though, the aid of his uncle, Aaron. He also discovered was the Prowler. The story of Finn vexed Miles so much that he decided that he had to make Roxon pay. Miles' plan was to steal Finn's phone and use it as evidence. His uncle guided him through the facility, and he successfully got the phone. However, as soon as he got the phone, the alarm sounded and Miles took off. He tried his best to escape the pursuers, and he did so successfully. However, only with his life, as the phone was destroyed. Miles was rageful at the failed mission, and he decided to seek counsel with the Prowler and ask about his next move. Miles' idea of contacting his uncle Aaron paid off. Aaron convinced him to not judge Finn too quickly. He told him to get closer to her, so close to the extent that she will trust him with her secrets of the underground. Miles saw the whole plan as being manipulated, but Aaron convinced him otherwise by stating that it was for Finn's own good. He told Miles that he should not feel guilty, that he was just looking out for someone that he loved. Miles got convinced to an extent and decided to follow through with the plan. However, he decided with himself that he had to tweak it just a little bit. Location, Finn's roof. Time, 9:43 p.m. Miles wanted to appear as Spider-Man to Finn. He figured that he could relate with superiors oppressing their younger ones, and he wanted to stop that. In essence, Miles wanted to join the underground as Spider-Man. He wanted to help the group and stop crime. Miles' ideology was that he could not stop crime alone, as he felt that he was too weak. Peter had always told him that he was not powerful enough. Miles' whole plan was to join the underground, and together with his power and their technology, they could bring Roxon and many other crime syndicates to their knees. Miles Morales really hoped that his plan would work, as he was nervous. Swallowing his fear, Miles jumped through Finn's window into her room. Finn was so startled that she went into a defensive mood. With not for Miles' quick reflexes and spidey sense, he would have been headless by now. Miles calmed her down. He hoped that she would not be able to recognize his voice, as he was wearing his new Spider-Man suit. After trashing her whole room, Miles was able to calm her down successfully. He then told Finn that he wanted to join the underground. This brought about laughter from Finn, who thought the idea ridiculous. Miles, however, made her understand that he was serious, and this got Finn confused. She inquired why he wanted to join the group, and told her everything about his investigation. He let her know that he wanted to stop Roxon and other crime syndicates. Finn then told Miles that she would accept to induct him into the underground, but on one condition, that he would reveal his secret identity to her. Finn explained that everyone in the underground knew themselves, and if Spider-Man joined, it would be a disadvantage to them, as he could take off any time with their weapons or secrets, and they would not know where to find him. "I am the Tinkerer," Finn said to Spider-Man, as she explained to him that if he revealed his face to her only, she could vouch for him, and this would not make him reveal his identity to others in the group. Miles thought about everything, and he knew that this was a stupid decision, but he just had to do it. He could not withdraw now, because he had already come too far. After all, it's Finn, my childhood friend, he said to himself, as he was convinced that she would not sell him out. Another reason that was convincing him to remove his mask was that he already knew her secret identity, so he could balance the table. Miles then gulped, pulled off his mask. Finn's face was that of shock, amusement, and bewilderment at the same time. Inducted Miles to the underground, and nobody protested. This was because Finn was their weapon maker, and she used a secret and special component, so she was irreplaceable. After the induction, Spider-Man addressed them and told them that they needed to attack Roxon tonight. This brought about muttering from the crowd, as they were not ready. Even Finn was unsettled. Miles told them that the enemy would least expect any attack from them and him, Spider-Man, at this time. He stated that there might be a mole among them for Roxon. And the more they delay, the more time they would give Krieger to produce and effect countermeasures for them. This made sense to all of them, and they decided to infiltrate Roxon that night. Miles was having mixed feelings and he was confused. The underground had been successful in their destruction of Nuform, and currently, Krieger was under some questioning by the authorities. Miles was supposed to feel happy, but his discovery of Aaron made that impossible. His uncle, the Prowler, had been working for Roxon all along to thwart his efforts. This made Miles rageful and heartbroken. As Miles was thinking about what to do, he heard someone land behind him, and he swiftly assumed a fighting stance. When Miles saw that it was Peter Parker, he was surprised and also terrified. This was because Peter was supposed to be with Mary Jane in Samakara. Once Peter landed, he started lashing out at Miles. Peter told Miles that he had to cut his trip short because of the news of destruction he had been hearing happening in the city. I leave for a few weeks and the city is already in flames, Peter asked Miles angrily. And what is this talk of you joining the underground? Peter demanded from Miles. Miles just stood there fuming, while Peter lashed out and criticized him. As Spider-Man went on, he could not take it anymore. Miles used his Venom ability on Peter. This sent Peter flying to the other side of the roof, with surprise on his face. Since I can't ever be a hero like you, I guess I have to step out of your shadow and do my own thing, Miles told Peter menacingly as he swung away. Peter's heart was in agony as his worst fear had come to pass. He had pushed Miles too far, and now he was gone, the dark side. It had been 1 week since Peter saw Miles, and it was pure agony. He knew that it was his fault, that Miles acted the way he did, and if anything happened to the kid, he would never forgive himself. He could not lose Miles too. Suddenly, Peter heard a tap on his door, and he rushed to answer it, in hope that it was Miles, but it wasn't. It was Finn, and she came with bad news. According to her, Miles had gone rogue with most of the members of the underground, as they wanted to conquer and rule the city of Harlem. Peter was dumbfounded as he shivered at what his actions had caused. Finn was asking for Peter's help to stop him, and he quickly obliged. As they were talking, the doorbell rang again and Peter rushed to check. It was Aaron, Genki, and Rio. Rio was informed by Genki that Miles was Spider-Man, as she was afraid when he did not show up at home again. Uncle Aaron was also sober, and he decided that he had to atone for his sins of deceiving Miles. He had to make amends. All Aaron did was actually from a place of love, as he did not want Miles to die like his father, who he was unable to reconcile with prior to his death. Aaron decided that he would not let it be the same with Miles. Finn told all of them the plan, and they all agreed. 3 of them, Finn, Peter, and Uncle Aaron, would set out to infiltrate and destroy the Nuform, which Miles had managed to salvage. That was Miles' plan, to blow up the city until they accepted his rulership. After concluding on their line of action, they traveled back to Harlem to carry it out. The battle was a fierce one. Aaron and Finn combated the members of the underground, while Peter went after Miles. The members of the underground were equipped with weapons designed by Finn, so luckily she could deactivate them. She did this, and their battle was a breeze as they defeated them with ease. She then told the Prowler to go and help Peter out with Miles, as she could manage on her own. Aaron headed out and found the battle between Miles and Peter fascinating to watch, as both of them knew each other's moveset. It was like watching a chess battle between the world's greatest minds. There were a lot of checkmates and counter-checkmates, but ultimately, they were in a stalemate. That was until the Prowler sought Miles' plan. Miles had slowly but gradually pushed Peter into the location of the Nuform. Aaron suddenly realized that if Miles unleashed his Venom ability, the Nuform would explode and consume Peter. As the train of thought passed Aaron's mind, Miles carried out the exact action, and there was no time to stop it. The Prowler then instinctively pushed Peter out of the way, as Miles unleashed the Venom Blast to the Nuform. The energy source exploded, and it consumed Uncle Aaron. This made Miles scream in agony, and he broke down in tears. Peter capitalized on this moment and came to talk to Miles to try and win him back. As Miles cried for the loss of his uncle, Peter chose that time to apologize to Miles. He explained that all his actions were just tough love, that he was really proud of his progress. As Peter spoke on, trying to make amends, the police cars started approaching the building. They were on them. Miles stopped sobbing and told Peter that it was already too late. Peter tried to argue, but Miles shook his head. He told Peter that he had chosen his own path. As the police footsteps started getting closer, Miles looked at Peter with tears in his eyes, and then he swung away. Peter did not do anything to stop him. When the police officers reached the top of the roof, there was no one there. And that is going to be it for this long-awaited, I feel like this was almost 3 to 4 years in production, but what if Miles Morales had joined the underground in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales? That's going to be it, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, with this brand new Marvel's What If episode. Like I said, it's been in the works for so long, and I'm just so glad to, finally have this Marvel's What If out before Marvel's Spider-Man 2 releases. I think this would definitely be a perfect Marvel's What If. Having Miles go in there and then, slowly getting turned by the underground, I think that was a great concept, because I do know in the original game, Miles went in there to only infiltrate them, but imagine if he got stuck in the underground. Imagine if, things went, unfortunately, differently. I think it would have been very interesting for his character. He's kind of like the Red Hood, kind of like Jason Todd's Robin between, Batman. I kind of felt that connection between this version of Miles Morales and Peter Parker, because after the death of Aunt May, I feel like it's very possible for Peter to have been bitter, to be, a little more, kind of like, I don't know if I would say like evil, but he definitely would have had that, symbiote Web of Shadows attitude, and that's kind of what I gave him without, him actually having, a symbiote. And I was like, since Aunt May's death would affect Peter, it definitely would have affected the training of Miles, and that would have led him to, joining the underground in this Marvel's What If. So it really made sense to, do this What If, especially before Marvel's Spider-Man 2 releases. I'm super excited for the game. I have not yet got a copy of the collector's edition, but if anybody has a copy of it and, doesn't want it, let me know, because I would love to play it. I need to get a PS5 again, because I don't have one at the moment, unfortunately, but I would love to live stream it on the channel. But I do want to say thank you so much for watching and tuning into this Marvel's What If. This is a very interesting one, and I cannot thank you enough for the support on the channel. It really, really means a lot to me. So if you guys want to support it even more, make sure to click that giant red button. Do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.